Hey everyone, welcome back to our September. Whoa, my brain's already in October. Welcome back to our September Jira for Scrum Masters. Today we're going to be focusing on continuing where we left off last month. And last month I was giving you tips and tricks on your sprint review. But today we're going to get a little bit more technical. I think this is probably going to be one of the more technical presentations here that we're going to do specific to Scrum Masters. But trust me, if you're a Scrum Master working with a software team, then I think you're going to like and appreciate what we're going to be talking about today. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and drop a like. Now, before we get too far into it, let me just go into our slides here. Code review tips. Not going to actually teach you how to do code reviews. I think that's definitely not within the job description of the Scrum Master. And I speak from personal experience because I actually got a fail to meet expectations one time because my manager expected me to be inside of the Git repository reviewing code. And that's just not what we're going to be talking about. But I'm going to be giving you tips on flags to look for when you are doing code reviews, or at least when your team is doing the code reviews, and what you as a Scrum Master or as a project manager, the kind of like flags that you should be looking for while the code reviews are happening. So couple friendly reminders up before we get too far into the session. Keep in mind that the session is being recorded and will be available on this particular YouTube channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button now and hit the bell notification, as we do a lot of live streams on this channel and you don't want to miss out. Slides aren't going to be available because I have 3 things on my slides. So we're going to be inside of the tools. We're going to be in Jira. We're going to be talking about the technical stuff that you need to know. Say hello in the chat. There is a chat available to us all here. And so make sure you say hello. YouTube has this new cool leaderboard, and so ask questions, interact, be a part of the community, and the top 3 get like a special badge that YouTube gives you. And so already got Rodney, the Jira, the Rodney guy, saying hello. We got Tushar, so we got a couple of regulars in here. And while you're at it, I do have membership opportunities here on this particular channel. So if you're interested in learning or getting early access to the videos, member-only live streams, member-only videos, we have a lot of cool stuff working for you, and even more coming in 2026. So definitely consider that. All right. One last announcement here before we jump into it. Just want a friendly reminder, we're like 2 weeks away from closing our registration for the Atlassian Builder Summit. This is a free 3-day event happening in Long Beach, California, October 22nd through the 24th. We initially had 150 seats. We got an overwhelming demand. We bumped it up to 250. So there's about 80 seats available. So once those are gone, we're gone. And so there's about 2 weeks left. And so if you're thinking about it, if you're on the fence, talk to your managers, talk to whoever you got to talk to, get those travel budgets approved. The event itself is completely free. There will be food. There's a bunch of opportunities here for networking. We have 26 expert-led hands-on sessions. We're going to have debates. We're going to have panels. We're going to have just a great time. There's even a Super Smash Brothers tournament with a couple of giveaways. So if you are interested and you do not want to miss out on what I'm going to call probably the biggest Atlassian community conference of the year, then make sure you sign up here. And if you can't make it, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, maybe somebody you know can make it, and we'll be able to attend. So this is going to be awesome. All right, Ronnie says, can my commit messages just be emojis and Jira work item keys? So little story. So when my background is in the defense world, I came from a very, militarized corporate environment, and everything was very serious when I worked in that world. And we also worked with slightly older than newer technology, right? So we had Link, if any of you remember Link, the precursor to Skype, and even Skype is dead, right? It was a precursor to Teams. And so we didn't have emojis. We didn't have all this extra stuff. And so I remember I left that corporate life. I left that military defense world behind, and I went to a startup. And I remember jumping into Slack, and the first thing that I started seeing was emojis everywhere. And I just saw requirement documents with emojis, and I'm like, how in the world do we build a product with emojis? But apparently, if it works for them, Ronnie, it'll work for you. You can 100% put your commit messages with emojis, and hopefully beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and somebody can interpret those emojis into actual commit messages. Liz, hello. Rohit, hello. Liz says, was just about to say, commit everything, leave no messages. No, we want to put messages, folks. You want good messages. Trust me. I got to keep them on their toes. Yeah, I would say that if you're putting commit messages as emojis, you're probably working with job security there. Ronnie says, just remember, if Alex ignores any question, I do have producer access to his streaming platform. I will be addressing every question. No worries. Spiny Lobster Hunt is about in the Smash. Spiny Lobster Hunt is on non-Smash Bros. Night. Yes, we will be going to. Well, there will be an opportunity to go to the beach. So if you guys want to go look for lobsters, we can go do that as well. Sarah says hello, and Tushar says good to know. All right. Anyways, sign up for the event. Tell everybody you know. We got like 2 weeks left, and Liz is gonna be there. Rodney's gonna be there. I'm gonna be there. Any fans of Robert Heen from Heen Tech, he's gonna be there. It's a stellar set of keynote speakers and just presentation speakers, and so it's gonna be an amazing 3 days, and it's gonna be the highlight of the year. So if you do not want to miss out, make sure you sign up today, because we are going on a world tour here, folks. Once we hit those 250, this event is going to be closed off. We're not accepting any more after this one. So a little bit about me, just to kind of get to know you in case you guys don't know me. My name is Alex. I do YouTube videos here on the internet, and I teach people how to use the Atlassian tools. I have the ACP 120, 620, and 520. Currently studying for the 420, although I'm kind of on the fence whether I'm going to take it or not. I do have a couple of engineering degrees, and I am also the co-host of the Jira Life. So I'm going to drop my link tree here. So if you want to go subscribe to the Jira Life, or just kind of check out all the other things that I'm a part of, then feel free to check them out. And then finally, and most importantly, if you need help with any of this stuff, configuring it, walking you through it, coaching, any of the topics we're going to be covering today, I do offer 15-minute, 30-minute, 1-hour sessions with me. All right. Now that we got all the advertisement out of the way, let's jump into what are you going to be learning today. So a couple things. The Jira Life, what is that? I don't know, Ronnie. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about what the Jira Life is? Maybe you can help us out. All right. And yeah, this does sound like the Atlassian Creator Summit. Maybe that's an idea that I'm not going to participate in, because I am done making events. All right, so we're going to be covering three major themes. We're going to be connecting Git. I'm going to walk you through all the different options. There's quite a few options, and there's not one Git to rule them all, although I will show you an option here. Not sponsored in this video, but definitely a sponsor of this channel. We'll talk about Git cracking in a few moments. I will talk about how to use Git and Jira, and then a Scrum Master's Guide to Git and Jira. So we'll again, this is going to be a little bit more technical, so let's just jump into it. So first and foremost, let's define Git real quickly. Let's just kind of talk about what Git is, just in case you're like, guy Alex, what the heck are you talking about? What is Git? So let me walk you through the typical developer process, just to kind of give you a good understanding for why this is important. So first off, we build products, right? Most of the time, we're in a software-driven world. It's kind of hard to build anything nowadays without some software involved in one way, shape, or another, right? And so, you as a Scrum Master, you might not know how to code, and that's okay. Although my personal opinion is every Scrum Master should have a basic understanding of the coding. And in the chat, if you don't agree, let me know why you wouldn't. But I firmly believe that everybody, especially Scrum Masters that are the Scrum Master of a development team, you should have a basic core and common understanding of what source code is, how it works, why it works. Because when you understand the mythicality of coding, then you will have more empathy for when things slip on you. Now, this is not an excuse for for lazy developers, but coding isn't easy, right? It's kind of complex in nature, and when it's easy to stand in this ivory tower as a Scrum Master and go, I need this done by the end of the sprint. I need your story point estimates for this impossible bug that you'll never even know how to figure out. It's really easy when you don't appreciate or understand how challenging it is to fix a bug that you have no freaking clue how to even start. So that is that's my 2 cents as to why every Scrum Master, if you want to do well, right, if you want to have a good dynamic with your team, you should have some understanding of how coding works, just to have that empathy with your developers. That's one. Number 2, as we continue down our path here. So again, our products run very software driven. So there's some coding element to it, but you don't just email code back and forth, right? You don't like create a source code file with code in it, and you don't email it to another developer and go, hey, check this out, right? There's modern tools that we use, and they're called source control management. You might have heard of SCM. And these tools, these repositories, they store your code. And there's a lot out there. There's more than I care to count, but a couple, like 3, are the more common ones. And we're going to have GitHub, which most of you have probably heard. We're going to have GitLab, which not a lot of people here in the private space, but in the public sector, GitLab is one of the best, or one of the most prominent ones, at least. And then there's Bitbucket, made by Atlassian. And so we're going to kind of talk about all those. There are a couple of other ones, some honorable mentions that we'll talk about in a little bit later. But most teams around the world, most software development teams use some sort of a SCM, right? Whether it's GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, ADO, or just plain vanilla Git. But most teams are using Git to some capacity. And so what typically happens is you, without making this conversation too technical, but what typically happens is you're building some product. That product's going to have some code. That code is inside of GitHub, GitLab, one of those Git repos, right? And the stories that your team works on, right? The stories that we've been building up for the last, I don't know, 9 months, right? All these stories, right, that we eventually assign to our developers, they all represent something that gets put into the code, right? I am very generalizing this because this is for software development teams that use Jira, right? So this is a very specific topic. So if your team is not a software development team, but you're still doing Scrum Mastering, some of these rules might not apply to you, but I think it's good for you to understand because this is the fundamentals. This is the core of how Jira works. And it's one of the most important cores, in my opinion, when we start looking at truly how to use Jira for all of its features, right? I understand Atlassian's running this promotion of like Jira for all, and so not everybody uses source code or developers, but that's okay. I think it's still important for you to appreciate it. All right. So anyways, so we have these stories, right? The stories that are going to be on my board here, right? So we have stories that your team goes and works on, right? There's something that the developer needs to do. And these stories are eventually going to be some code, right? They're going to result in some code change or the creation of some code or even the removal of some code in your code repository. Again, that GitHub, that GitLab, that Bitbucket. And it's cool. Like we make a story. The developer moves it to in progress. They start testing it. And then they move it to done. And yay. But there's a whole life outside of Jira that is happening in the developer experience. And that's kind of what we're going to try to bridge the gap on today. We're going to try to bring you some of that developer experience into Jira so you can visually see what's going on and what your developer is doing when they're not in Jira. And trust me when I tell you, your developer does not want to be in Jira. Your developer wants to be in their code, in their IDE. They want to be in Visual Studio Code. They don't want to come out here, right? They want to be where they're comfortable, where they're very experienced in. And I'm going to show you how to make Jira work so that they can stay over there in their world where they dominate and where they're really, really good. And then you still get the information you need as a Scrum Master on the Jira side. So with that said, let's talk about the first step. The most critical first step is you got to connect. We need to connect Jira with Bitbucket or Git in general, right? And so let me make sure, let's connect them together. So how do we connect them? There's a couple different ways. I'm going to show you 2 ways that are the most popular, right? And so if you're using Bitbucket, because Atlassian makes both Jira and Bitbucket, the Bitbucket integration is more native. It's more natural. And so to get to Bitbucket, you're going to go to your gear on the top right corner, and you're going to go to products. And then on the left-hand side, you scroll all the way down to this DVCS accounts. Now, I don't know why Atlassian called it DVCS accounts. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know what DVCS stands for, but it is here. And this is where you connect with your DVCS. And so when you're here, you're going to then connect. There's a link, Bitbucket Cloud Workspace. So you click on that button, and then you're going to be redirected to your Bitbucket. Again, this is a chicken and an egg situation. You do need to have a Bitbucket existing. You select your workspace, right? So I have like my DevOps book. I have a bunch of stuff in here. You can grant access to it. Typically, just a little pro tip in case you're doing this for the first time, you do need to be an administrator in both. Don't know version control system. That's a good one, Liz. That is a very good one. Yeah, so you do need to be an administrator in both Jira and your Git repository, and this is going to apply for everybody, not just for Bitbucket. So keep that in mind that if and when you're doing this connection, you might want to call up your Git admin so that they're the one doing this. Either they're going to have to grant you access as an admin in Git, or you're going to have to temporarily give them Jira access on the Atlassian side to do this. All right. Now, once this connection happens, we're off to the races. We're good to go, and we're done. All right. Now we have our Git repository set up, and we have Jira and Bitbucket talking to each other. That's step one. And we're going to get into the following steps here in the rest of this training, but that is a critical first step. If you don't have Git and Jira talking to each other, none of the magical stuff that I'm about to show you is going to happen. You have to get the connection established first. That is the very hard first requirement, right? Failure to do so, it's going to prevent you from doing anything else that we're going to do in this training. So you have to connect your source code repository with Jira, and it doesn't happen magically, and it doesn't happen automatically. All right, Tushar's got the distributed version control system. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. That is Tushar with the assist on the Google search. I'm pretty sure we would have come up to it eventually. But thank you so much, Tushar. Yeah, and then Liz has I had never seen the D at the start. Yeah, I've always seen just VCS, but never DVCS. Ronnie says, I prefer GitLab as it's much easier to use my own established environment for building. You can do Bitbucket pipelines, but it isn't easy to set up. So Ronnie, that's a great transition. So Bitbucket is just one of many integrations. I'm going to show you how to do the other integrations. I'm not going to actually do them all because one, I already have a couple of these set up. And I really don't know what happens to Jira when you set up multiple DBCSs, now that we know what that word means. But let's get into it. All right. So the second way is if you have GitHub, right? GitHub is probably the most popular of them all. GitLab is great. GitLab is a very awesome tool. I love GitLab. The problem is it's a little. I think out of all the tools out there, GitLab is the one that requires you to like really know Git. I think GitHub makes it a little bit easier, more mainstream, and then Bitbucket is again just the third child that nobody cares about. So let's show you how to get GitHub, which is going to be probably the most preferred method or the most popular tool. So we're going to go to apps, and you're going to go down to explore more apps. And then we want to type in GitHub, as this is a third-party plugin. Now, Atlassian did recently change the name here. So you might have recognized this as GitHub for Jira. This has now been updated to GitHub for Atlassian. So not sure what Atlassian's move there is, but they about 2 months ago, Atlassian updated this one. So this is the one you want. This is the free. It's completely free. There's no price for this one. 160,000 installs. Atlassian has 300,000 customers. I'm just throwing some numbers out there. So 50% of customers have this installed, right? So that's a lot of people. In case you needed proof in the pudding, again, 300,000 customers, 160,000 installs. I know the math doesn't math, but I'm still driving a point here, right? It is a very popular tool. A lot of companies set this up. So if your company is doing Git development and you haven't set this up, highly recommend you get this squared away ASAP. It's going to open up a whole new world of possibilities for you. So that's the one you want for GitHub. If you are on GitLab, you're going to probably want the official GitLab one here. This actually was missing for many, many years. And so I'm happy that it's here. Although it does have some poor ratings here, but there is the official GitLab for Jira Cloud. It used to be, at least a year or two ago, you couldn't connect with GitLab unless you had the paid version of something, and this is a free one, so this is cool. And then for all you Atlassian with their damn search, man, put searches too close to each other. Whoever's in charge of Atlassian's developer or user experience, come talk to me. Your search bars shouldn't be this close to each other, folks. I can't tell you how many people, not only me, do this all the time. Okay, ADO didn't work. Azure. Here we go. And then the fourth other option that you would look at is the Azure DevOps for Jira, although this one's a paid one, so this is not the one we're looking for. Atlassian does have, there we go, the Azure DevOps official. This is the free one, so if you want it all free, everything that I've shown you is completely free. So if your team is on Azure DevOps, you're going to want this one. If you're on GitLab, you'll want the one made by GitLab. If you're on GitHub, you want the one made by GitHub. And then if you're on Bitbucket, you're going to want to go through the DVCS accounts and connect with Bitbucket directly. So those are the free ones. Now, this video is not sponsored, but I am working in close collaboration with my good friends over at GitKraken. And so if you're looking for a paid experience, and trust me when I tell you that this experience is going to make your life very, very much easier. And also, if you're using a Git repository that isn't the ones that we just called out. So for example, if your team is still on Team Foundation server, maybe your team is using private repositories. Maybe your team is using on-prem repositories, like Rodney has his GitLab on-prem, right? Then this is what you're going to want, because this is just going to make your life a lot easier when you have, again, these more non-mainstream Gits. So keep Git Kraken in mind if you hit limitations with the free apps. All right. Now, for the remainder of this training, though, you don't have to buy anything, so don't worry about buying anything. Everything that I'm going to demonstrate is available on the free versions of everything that I showed you. The mechanics are all the same. I'm just letting you letting you know that if you want to take it to the next level, definitely consider getting the paid one. So Git Kraken is bomb, of course. Yes, it is. Okay, so that is step one in general. Very big step one is get these things connected. You have to get your tools connected. They're not automatically going to talk to each other. You have to connect them by installing one of the apps or going through the DVCS. Okay, so now once they've been connected, right? Once they've been connected, now we got to learn how to use them, right? Because now that the connection has happened, things aren't automatically going to happen either, right? Your developers actually have to do something to do something. It's interested to check out the reviews of those users who reviewed and gave low ratings. Yeah. So interestingly enough, Tushar, I've actually looked at some of these reviews. It's interesting, but my biggest 2 cents is beggars can't be choosers, right? If I had to summarize the comments, beggars can't be choosers, right? And when you get a free app, you don't get a whole lot of support, right? And you get what you see is what you get, which is, again, why I'm not sponsored, but highly recommend, folks. If you guys are driving multi-million, multi-billion-dollar companies and your teams are using Git, consider using Git Kraken. It is going to open up a whole new world of opportunities for you all. Trust me. Okay, so let's continue down our path here, and let's see where we get to. So now that we have our Git installed, our teams need to go and use it. And again, just because it's installed doesn't mean that magical things are going to happen. In fact, your team needs to go do something pretty critical. All right. And so what your team needs to do is, for every story, task, bug, epic, work item, whatever they're working on, there's going to be a development section that you probably have ignored for the majority of your life using Jira, but there's this development section right here. And what you have in here is you're going to have 3 opportunities, or 3 different things that you can do. Technically 3, only 2 are visible, but I'll show you the third one in just a second. But that is, you're going to be able to create a branch. You're going to be able to create commits, and then ultimately you'll be able to create pull requests. Now the pull request will come later. You need the branch and the commits to enable the pull request. And so let's do a little quick, what is Git 101, in case you're completely new to Git, right? So in Git, I would recommend, folks, if you're Picado, learn Git. If you're completely new to the wonderful world of Jira and Git, don't do this one, do this one. I highly recommend you go check this one out. Again, not sponsored, but fun little game that I like to play. There is this branching tool. It's a quick, awesome demo that shows you how branching works. And so you can do a Git branch and then see how nothing happens. You can take the code from over here, create your branch, and you can do Git checkout. Oopsie. You can copy this code and stick that in here. And you'll see that we have I guess they don't like the something out of it, right? But we've made a branch, right? I would assume that we can do something else where we do maybe 19. See, nope, that'll create 2 of them. So I don't know how to branch very well. I'm not very good at Git, apparently, but you can practice with that tool that I sent you here so you can learn the different commands. But the important thing is that this will create and check out a new branch for you. And so your developer just needs to copy this and go into the Git repository and make their branch. Now we're actually going to go do it. We're going to fire up GitHub here and create the branch in GitHub. And so I'm going to go to GitHub. And I'm going to pick my repository, my shoe bumps, shoes for bumps. And from master, we're going to make a branch, and then this is the branch name. But notice, I'm going to zoom in here, folks. We have something very, very important. AL18. This is the key for our work item. This is our work item key. This is the most important step. If you're multitasking, stop what you're doing, pay attention, because if you screw this step up, the whole thing has been in vain. You must, or at least your developers must, put the key in the branch or the commit to get this integration to happen and to get the handshake to happen. If you skip this, then there's no point in doing any of this because it will not know to talk to each other. You or your developer, 99% of the time your developer, must put the key inside the branch name so we can get cooking with some fire here, okay? So I'm going to hit create branch. And this branch, I'm going to go to GitHub, and you're going to see that I have a branch here called AL18 task 2. Again, you don't need to care about this. You don't need to know how this all happens in the back end. All you need to do is tell your developers, take the work item key, the key for your story, right? Whatever story you're working on, whatever story is assigned to your developer, in this case, Bob would take this key, they would copy this code that we copied, and then they would click on the create branch in GitHub, okay? Once they create the branch in GitHub, we get the branch, and then they can go and start writing code. But for you, all you care about is now refreshing your story, because now as a Scrum Master, I'm going to show you what we get to see, right? So as a Scrum Master, we now get to see the branch here, right? We see the branch here, and at the where's my task at? 18. Where's number 18? Somebody tell me where 18 is at. Here we go. And on number 18, we can see the particular icon here, which is telling us that there's a branch. Now, I think I have a couple things messing up my particular Jira. I think I have too many Git repository. I have like 4 Git tools installed, and things are probably getting confused. But it's the work item key. And I did say work item key earlier. Just Ronnie's probably not paying attention. He's probably dreaming of, I don't know, GitLab pipelines or something. Yeah. Also, never put your private key in a Git repo. Okay. So that's what you get. So as a Scrum Master, it's easy now, right? You start to see, okay, when you open the story, yay, there's a branch. When you're looking at the card, you can see that there's a branch here as well. And so this is cool. We are going to revisit these icons a lot, right? Because notice this icon points up and this icon points down. We're going to be looking at these in a second, right? The direction of these icons are important. You get a lot of metadata in this little icon. This is one of the newer features I think Atlassian has dropped within the last 6 months or so. And so keep in mind that at a glance, you can go, okay, so these tasks clearly don't have any branches, and this one does. Pro tip, and this is where we're going to get a little bit more fun with these technicalities here, right? When your developer creates a branch, that is usually the good signifier that my developer is now ready to work on something, right? Because when your developer creates the branch, and I wish I was better. Let's see, Git. Let's see how to do this one. Test. Nope. All right, what are the commands at Git? Help me out. Where somebody in the chat here? What are the commands? This is usually a whole tutorial here. I'm trying to find the tutorial. I told it to go away, but I don't want it to go away. Now I want the tutorial. So where is the tutorial? I think there's a levels. Here we go. Introduction to Git commits. So commits. So I guess we're gonna commit first. Oh, okay. Sure. I would think that we would want to branch first. Okay, we'll get into commit in a second. Let's see if I can get to the branching first. I want to do my branches. There we go. Branching. Level 2. Get branches. Branch early, branch often. Get branch new image. All right. And then we're going to commit. Okay. Where do we create a second image? I want to create 2. Okay. Nope, this doesn't help me. Anyways, let's not turn this into a Git class, because now I'm showing my lack of Git skills real quickly. But let me paint you the picture of what this actually happens, right? So your developers have a code base. Usually it's called master or main or develop, right? But there's some code base that your developer is working off of. When a story is assigned to them and they're ready to work on that story, they create what's called a feature branch. And so from that main line, you create like a tree branch, right? And so you go this way. And so now your development happens over here. It doesn't happen on where our entire team is, right? Although you can do that, but I don't recommend it, right? I recommend you always create some sort of a feature branch so that you can go off and not mess with your production data. Never a good idea to mess with production data, right? And so your team's going to create a branch, and literally they're going to go up, and then up here they're going to start writing their code. And that's all we've done, right? At this point, when we created that branch, the developer has essentially said, okay, I'm taking a snapshot in time, and I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go up, and we're gonna start writing code up here, independent of what the rest of the development is happening on the main branch. Okay, and that usually triggers to me as a Scrum Master that my team is now in progress. Right, they have accepted that story, and they're now working on that story. Really, once they start committing, that's when I know that work's actually being done. But the task or the creation of the branch is the first key indicator that our developers are ready to do work. And so what I would recommend to make your life easier is to create an automation rule, right? And so here's what I would do. Here's what I have a lot of my teams do is create an automation rule so that when your branch is created, see how we have a DevOps section, right? This is all naturally built in. But when your branch is created, then you're going to transition your work item, right? And you're just going to go to in progress. And then you turn on the rule, right? Auto transition story, or I'm just going to put work item to in progress when branch created, right? I'm going to turn this on. Do not publish dev build direct to prod. Yes, do not do that. always follow the process, which we're going to go over loosely here today. So now what's cool about this, right? So now that I have this branch, check this out. When my developer, again, I don't script any of my videos, folks. This may or may not work. But when I come over here and I create my branch, I'm going to copy this code. I'm going to create GitHub just in case something goes wrong on me. I'm going to create, again, my repository here from master. Yep, that's fine. I'm going to create the branch. The branch is created. It's now in GitHub. Cool beans. I'm going to do a quick refresh. Notice the status of this story and see, I didn't do anything. I didn't do any clicking. It automatically went to in progress. And folks, in case you're in the back of the room not paying attention, this right here is how you bridge the world between your developers and your Scrum Masters. By them acting inside of their source code repository, because normally they're inside of Visual Studio Code and they're going to type in the command branch, right? Git checkout -b and then the name of their branch, right? They don't have to come to Jira, but automatically, if you set up these automations, we can move the stories from to do to in progress. That way, as a Scrum Master, you're not having to go, hey, did you start the story yet? Right? Like, are you guys started? Have you started? Right? What's the progress? Right? You don't have to do any of that because the automation rule is going to take care of it for you. And so the moment they create the branch, it'll move it to in progress, and then we'll have our branch here. Now, I'm not sure why it didn't come through yet. There's supposed to be something in here. Again, I have too many gits in here, and I think it breaks things. Oh, there it is. It just takes some time, right? And so now we have our branch. So as a Scrum Master, these are signals we're watching for, right? We now have a story that automatically went to in progress, and we have the little icon here that shows us that a branch has indeed been created. Okay, and that's good. That's really good. We have our branches here, and our stories are automatically in progress. So now your developer just continues, right? So there's something called a commit, and so the easiest way to describe a commit is if you've ever written a Word document, right, and you've ever hit like Control S to save your document, right, and you're saving as you're writing your amazing document, right? Raise your hand here in the chat. Let me know in the chat. Have any of you ever just like ferociously hit Control S, Control S, Control S as you're writing like a paper or an essay or something, and just want to make sure you don't lose any of your changes, right? Let me know if you've ever done that, because if you've ever done a Control S on your paper, right, then that's essentially what a commit is, right? It's basically your developer saying Control S, save my progress up to this point. There's a ton of other benefits to doing it. I won't get into all the technical details, but your developer is naturally going to save their work, right? They're going to be saving their changes, and maybe they want to go back, right? Maybe they want to go back to a previous change. If you've never written code right before, right, it's kind of hard to understand why, right? But the best analogy is like if you've ever written an essay and you're like, you write this amazing intro and then you start writing the body, and then you're like, wait, I need to update my intro, or I don't like this and I just want to go back. Well, Git allows you to go back. It allows you to go back in time. You're literally a time travel, right? You're literally Marty McFly here sometimes. And you can go back in time and like completely revert back to how things were. If you're using Confluence, you probably know this is better than anyone, right? Because there's version control built into Confluence that allows you to literally undo your changes and go back to a known state that you had. And so that's what commits do. So what your developer is going to be doing in these particular stories, right, that they're working on, is they're going to be creating commits. Now, again, they don't typically hang out inside of Jira. They don't like to be inside of Jira. But this is the code that we have, and your developer simply can grab this code. They don't have to come in here, though. They just go into the Git repository, and they're going to do this, right? They're going to hit Git commit, and this will create the snapshot, right? It'll create okay, I saved something. And folks, this is very, very important. Again, if you're multitasking, you're going to want to pay attention. Your developers have to put the key in every commit message. If they don't, Jira won't know about it. I learned this the hard way the other day because I was doing some testing and noticed that was a very true statement. So your developer needs to put the work item key, because Ronnie likes to troll me on which key we're talking about, right? But your developer needs to put the key in the commit message. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our branch. We're going to go into Git, and we are inside of here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to this file, right? And I'm going to add some code here. Where's my edit pencil? Here we go. We're going to add some pencils here. I'm going to do an H1 or H2 register for the Atlassian Builders Summit today, right? And I'm going to commit my changes. When I do that, I have my commit message up here, but I want to do my AL18, and then I'm going to put my message, right? I'm going to say AL18, reminding people to register for the free event, right? And then you can add more description if you want to, and then we're going to commit it directly to that branch, right? And so we're just doing that. And all we've done is we've saved this file. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to this. I'm generalizing. I'm straight in the branch. Normally, you're in your code repository. There's a whole, developers know what they're doing over there. All you need to know is that the developer needs to put in the key in this message. Failure to do so will be bad, right? And so when we go back to Jira and I hit refresh on my card, right, we're going to see the commit. Now, again, it takes a couple of refreshes, so give me 1 second while we wait. Because you would think this things will be instantaneous in 2025, but no. And assuming I did this correctly. Sometimes I don't. Okay, here we go. So we can now see that we have a commit, right? And so we can click on here, and as a Scrum Master, we're going to see the commits, right? And it's very important, folks. As you see commits, this is good. This is indicating to you that your developers are actively working on something, folks. This is the key part. They're actively working on it. If you stop seeing commits come through, that is no bueno. That usually means that your developer is not actively working on it anymore. And if they are actively working on it, it usually means they're stuck. It usually means they've hit up some sort of a blockage or a roadblock, and that is also going to be a good indicator for you as a Scrum Master to go help your developer out, right? And again, you get so much situational awareness, so much context without having to email, Slack, or call your developers up. You yourself as a Scrum Master, you now have the insight on how this stuff works so that you can go and help your developers out. Now, the other thing is on the card. So when we go look at our card over here, you're going to notice that our icon has switched from this little fork to this like little dot. And so this is indicating to us that we are actively in development mode and we're committing. Now, you don't have to do any automations here, right? Because your developer is in progress. Until the pull request is created, which is what we're going to cover next, your developers are basically in progress. That the work is in flight and some development is happening on it. Whether they're doing it right or wrong, I can't tell you that and I can't help you there. but just know that developers are actively working on this as long as you're seeing commit messages come through. Again, red flags, if you stop seeing the commit messages come through, that's usually going to be a key indicator that something's going wrong, that developer's stuck or they got pulled off to something else, which is all the red flags that as a Scrum Master I care about, right? I care about when stories aren't progressing through the board. And so you want to watch for these things, right? You want to see what's going on here and understand and see how you can help your developers. Yes. So this is a great sorry, Tushar, good question. Does the key always need to be first or can it be anywhere? And yes, so Rodney says the key can be anywhere. Yeah, it's just convention. My convention is to put it either at the beginning or at the end. Doesn't have to be, it can be anywhere, but it does need to be in there. If you don't put it in there, it might as well not even be in there, right? And so you can put your key anywhere in the message as long as it's in the message. VS Code breaks or bugs your dev's entire staging commits. Yeah, so so that's a whole different story for a whole different day, Liz. But anyways, as a Scrum Master, we're watching out for these things, right? We want to see the commits. We want to see 10, 20, 30, 40 commits. I would say there is an upper limit though. Like if your developer has like 100 commits and this thing's still in progress, that would probably be a red flag for me, right? That would probably be a red flag because that means again your developer has no freaking clue what's going on, and or this story that you gave them that's this 2-pointer is like now turning out to be a saga, right? And so you want to you want to help and engage with your developers if you start seeing too many commits, because it's not going to be good either. Okay, so now as we developers write code, right, they're fixing the story, they're doing the thing that the requirement says. There comes a moment in time when the developer says, I'm done. And folks, as a Scrum Master, you're going to appreciate this. In the chat, let's just get the chat going here. What is your definition of done? What does it mean for your company when something is done? Is it done when the developer is done? Is there any commit limit in Jira Cloud? I don't think so. I've never personally seen one, but most stories, if you're writing a story, if you write a good story, Tushar, I would say you shouldn't have more than 20 to 30 commits, right? Your story should be small enough that they should be taken care of in a handful of commits. I would say 5, 8 commits max. Okay. But yeah, if you're starting to see 20, 30, 40, 50 commits, I'd start talking to your developer and figure out what's going on. So, but back to the question, what does definition of done mean for you guys? Is it done when the developer's done? Is it done when the PR gets merged? Is it done when the unit testing gets done? Is it done when the pipeline and the CI/CD is done? Is it done when the tester says it's done? Is it done when UAT is done? Like, what is done? What does done mean for you? It's way bigger to me because you have a, right? You all need to have a good definition of done in general, right? That'll be my pro tip here. Now, when your developer finishes what they think is done, and we got Ronnie's definition of done is, I am so emotionally tired, I just can't go on. I will be there in the morning. It'll be there in the morning. I love this one, Ronnie. I'm going to remind you of this, Ronnie, when we're in Barcelona and we're waking up. I thought this was so funny. So Ronnie sent me a link earlier today to sign up for a breakfast. Jamon. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. So there's a breakfast in Barcelona happening at 7:30 in the morning. Little sidebar, little tangent. This is 10:30 p.m., folks, for me. I'm going to be eating breakfast in 2 weeks at 10:30 p.m. International world travelers here. Ronnie and I will be. Jamon and huevos. Huevos. They should have put huevos. I don't know why they put eggs. I would have put jamon and huevos. Okay. Anyways, done to this person, Pina meets Greco means done equals deployed to production. All right. Yep. Liz says, so once you get that second cohort, we get through the mid-plan, then no. I'm not sure what that one means, Liz. Okay. Anyways, yes, and this will be apparently jamón ibérico. Never had jamón, let alone, or jamón ibérico. I've had a lot of ham, but apparently our ham is not the same thing. Okay, folks. So anyways, the point I'm trying to make is there's going to be a moment in time when your developer thinks they're done. Okay. This is very key. The developer thinks they're done. And that just means that they're done with the changes, right? They're done. They hit the acceptance criteria, the given when then. They finished that. It's all squared away. They're good to go here. Everything is tied up nicely, and they think it's done, right? They think it's done. And so what a developer will typically do in this particular scenario when they think it's done is they're going to create what's called a pull request. Remember earlier I told you that there was technically 3, but we only saw 2. Well, look, ta-da, we have the pull request. And so if you remember from our analogy from earlier, right? So what's been going on is the developer has our main line, they made a feature branch, and then they started committing up here, right? And so they've been making changes up here. But now all those changes need to come back down so that the rest of your developers have it. Remember, this is a distributed version control system, right? Do we need to set GitHub and integration via application links in Jira? No. In the cloud, what I showed you with installing the app, that's all you need to do. Unless you're doing on-prem GitHub, then you may have to do extra stuff. But we don't talk about on-prem in this channel. We only talk about the cloud. All right. You may have to do some extra configuration for GitHub on-prem, but in the cloud, it's just installing the app. Life works a lot easier in the cloud, folks. All right. So we have our feature branch, and we need to bring it back down. And we do that merging back down through what's called a pull request. And this is your developers raising their hand saying, we are done. Okay. And so we come over to the pull request over here, and we are going to create a new pull request. I'm probably going to click on this one over here, comparing and pull request. Okay. And so a pull request, again, you don't have to worry about the technicalities of the details. Just know that your developer should put the key, the work item key, in the name of the pull request too. And then just simply click on create pull request. Again, they're going to set up reviewers. They're going to set up whatever. There's a lot of metadata that happens in the GitLab, in the Git side. You don't have to worry about any of those details. Just know that you need to remind your developers, put the key in the title of the PR. Because when they do that, and I click refresh, then our pull request is going to show up. So we may need to hit, we don't talk about DC. No, we don't talk about DC. But Ronnie, you use DC more than I do. Do you need to do an application link if you're connecting with GitHub on-prem? I would assume you don't, but I've never done a GitHub integration. Well, I haven't done it. No, I've never done a GitHub integration. Uh-oh. Where's my PR? I think I did something wrong. Create pull request. No, I have the pull request here. All right, so we're just waiting for Jira to sync here. It does take a second, folks, so do be patient with this tool, right? Eventually, we're going to get our pull request. Let's see if it happens before the stream is over. All right, well, let's see. Come on, Jira, you can do this. Don't make me look bad in front of the wizard. Task 18, pull request. I'm going to do one last refresh. Otherwise, I'm going to go to plan B. Okay, so for some reason, our pull request is not coming through. Inside of Git, everything looks good because I put the title in there. I'm going to view my pull request. Should be okay. We have the title in there. All right, let me just do one last refresh here. Okay, eventually we'll come through. I'm not sure what's going on. Let's try this over here. There we go. So we do have a pull request here. So oh no, that's the branch. Here we go. We do have the pull request showing up in the pull request section, so that's good. But it's very important for you to look at the status. So the status is going to be the next part of my little spiel here. When there's an open pull request, Git is going to tell us about this, right? And it's going to tell this information in a couple of different places. One is going to be here. For some reason, it's not cooperating, right? But it'll show up here. But number two, there's a code section, development section inside of your Jira projects. And so when you scroll down, you will see, and you should see, your pull request, and along with the status of the pull request and the reviewers, and then any comments. So it's very, very important. You don't see the commits, you don't see the branches, you only see the pull request. So it's when your developer gets almost to the end that they go and create those pull requests, that information will show up under your development section of Jira. And so keep that in mind. That's in the development section. And then I think it might be in the code section too. We're going to go to code, explore code. Apparently code just redirects us back to development. Nope, there's code. Yeah, so if you look at the code section is going to show you which repositories you're connected with, and then it's going to show you the status of these PRs. Folks, the PRs are very important, right? Because the PRs indicate that their developer is done and somebody should be looking at it. And so if you have in your workflow a status for like code review or peer review or some sort of review or some sort of test, because again, not to get too technical, but when your developer raises their hand and says, yep, I have code that is ready to be reviewed, that usually is a catalyst for a bunch of stuff. And usually there's a peer review. Somebody comes in here and looks at the code, right? Inside of here, we're going to be able to see the files change, right? You're going to see the files. You're going to see what happened. There's checks, right? So this is where your CI/CD comes into place, right? There's actions that do a bunch of checks. There's unit testing. There's automated testing. There's a bunch of amazing things that can happen at this point when that pull request is created. But trust me, a lot of things are happening in that pull request moment. And so this is usually, in my opinion, when I'm creating boards for people or Jira's workflows, this is usually when I'm going to take that particular item and I'm going to say, you know what, you're worthy to be moved to like my code review status, right? And the very similar thing, because I'm running out of time here, I only got 9 minutes, you would want to create an automation rule that says, okay, when a pull request is triggered, do something, right? Do something like transition it to the code review status. Now, your per pull requests are going to either be passed, they're going to be merged, or they're going to be rejected. They're going to be failed, right? If they fail, you can do an automation rule to like send it back to the developer or send it back to in progress. But if they pass, right? If they pass, then some senior developer, hopefully it's a senior developer, will say, yep, this all looks good. We're not jeopardizing anything. Our build looks good. Our static code analysis looks good. Our unit testing looks good. Everything looks good. Let's merge it back in. So what we've done is we've officially done the merge back down. So back in Jira, it's going to tell us this information, right? And so our story is going to eventually, I don't know why this thing is delayed so badly, but our story is eventually going to tell us merged. And so if I open this up and I go to the pull request, you'll see the status of merged. I'm not sure why it's not showing me in the UI, right? But it'll tell us merged. The icon will change. So over here, you see that these icons change, and we have in this particular case, we have an open pull request. Let me see if I can close this pull request out so you can see what this looks like, because this one might actually do it for me. Okay, let me see. Hopefully, I just want to show you what these approved pull requests looks like from the icons. Here we go. So this is an approved pull request. So you can see here that we have a check mark, right? And when I open it up, now finally Jira decided to catch up, right? I can see that the pull request is merged. So why am I telling you this, and why is this important for you as Scrum Masters? Well, again, these are just signals for y'all, right? So when the pull request is merged, that means that somebody in the development team has said, yes, this is good. So that means that if you have a testing phase where somebody maybe from your QA team or some UAT testing or whatever, these are signals, these are triggers to move it to the next step. Also, if you have merged code and it's still in progress, it shouldn't be in progress anymore because your code has been merged. The developers have said they're done and they moved on to the next problem, right? In fact, they moved on to the next problem even the moment they opened up the PR, right? They want to go do something else already. And so if you have work that is in to do or in progress and you have a merge pull request, then your Jira and your developers aren't talking to each other. And so again, problems for Scrum Masters later, right? So put these automations in place to help the developer get their Jira status updated automatically, because trust me, they are going to be creating pull requests. They're going to be creating branches. They're going to be creating commits. PRs are going to be failed. PRs are going to be passed. And so it just makes more sense to do the automation rules so that you get the benefit without having to, bother the developer to go and update Jira. Because as Rodney says, have you updated your Jira issues, Jira work items today? Right? That statement becomes a little bit obsolete because you don't need to worry about that because Jira will take care of it for you. So those are the benefits of, and that was the Scrum Master's Guide. So I kind of show you how to do both. I just want to remind you folks, I am hosting this free 3-day event happening in Long Beach. We have the hotel. The hotels run out in 2 weeks. So if you don't book your hotel in the next 2 weeks, those hotels are going to get lost. I get to pay for them all. And so those hotels are going to be empty. And so let's not give the hotel empty rooms, and help me fill them up. And let's move in, and let's get these hotels booked as soon as humanly possible. And I'll see you in October. Again, free 3-day event. Just get your hotel room. We're going to be right by the beach. We're going to have an amazing schedule. Check out the official agenda and everything. It's at the buildersummit.com. Builder-Summit. And so we're going to have a Smash Brothers tournament. Liz is going to be there. Ronnie's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We have a list of all the people being there. We got quite the lineup of people, folks. We have a lot of people showing up, and we have a lot of sessions. We have a ton of sessions here that are going to be available. So 26, 3 different tracks, so many opportunities to learn. So talk to your managers, talk to whoever you need to, get approval. We have legends like Matt Dorr doing some of our keynotes. It's going to be an amazing time. Free food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner most days. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. And you don't want to miss out on this completely free event. So, and even if you can't make it, just tell others about it. Spread the word. Again, we only have like 2 weeks left, and I got a lot of rooms to fill. So if you have any sympathy for me, go book those rooms today. So with that said, folks, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this session, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.